I know I'm into drawing, obviously, because I do comics, but a bigger part of what I love that is also a part of comics is writing.
Yeah. So I mean, it comes through with like following your page. It is everything is like a joke. That's what is part. Like, I'm super into comedy. We've spoken about that a little bit, and that's like one of the things that's super appealing to me about them is like you're like writing punchlines. It's like it was interesting hearing you talk about like back in like the early days of your life where it was kind of this combination of storytelling and art, because it really does come through that like every project that you're working on is it's honestly impossible to say like what is like more core to the comics is like the drawing, the art style, or like this very defined sense of humor.
Right. So true. Like, they're so intermeshed in that way. So they've always just been passions of mine. So I've taken really fun classes at Northwestern that's like 2D animation that's really focused on the drawing side of things as well. And that's been a blast. But honestly, I have to say, I think my favorite class I've ever taken at Northwestern was a writing for video games class in the RTVF department. This was so dope. Like, not only did we get to play video games for homework or even watch, video game based shows like The Witcher, whatever, but then by the end of it, we basically got to choose what kind of video game we would want to make, and we got to kind of write it out in this software where it'd be a choose your own adventure almost, and you'd be able to like just click a button and then the reader would be taken to like one or the other depending on which button they clicked, kind of thing. And that was just so fun to be able to create, because something that comics and writing doesn't do that does is just make it even more of an active audience, like an active participant. They literally have the choice in this, which I just think is so fascinating and fun and cool.
That's amazing. That class sounds amazing.
Yeah, it was so fun.
Can you tell me a little bit about what your final project culminated in? And I'm also super interested, maybe, I don't know, that class sounds crazy. I love having people down here to talk about like very specific classes, because it's crazy what you learn about in these like weird ass classes. Like, are there any video games that you heard about in that class that you didn't know about that were super cool to learn about, maybe?
Oh, literally so many. I'm trying to think of them now. One, I remember, I think it was called Death and Taxes or something like that, where you play a Grim Reaper and you have to decide whether people go to heaven or hell when they die. So that one's been in my cart on Steam for the longest time. I will play it eventually. But yeah, games like that, and what's cool about it too is that you get to find a bunch of indie games by people that could even be our age in coding and stuff like that, where it's just these personal narratives as well. I think someone made a video game that we played together in class about kind of going through a breakup, and the mini games, it like started a new relationship was the start of the game, and you would play these mini games and stuff, like putting together speech bubbles when you're having a conversation with them. And then as time went on, you would get to a mini game, and putting together those speech bubbles was like a lot harder because you're not communicating as well with your partner as you're about to break up. And it was just like, oh my God, all
Wow.
the things you can do with this medium just blew my mind. And that's the thing too, is that you really don't know which classes at Northwestern are going to be like a winner. Like, I had no idea going in. And it was my very first writing class actually for, RTVF that I took at Northwestern. And I was like, oh my God, now I need to take all the writing classes because this was so fun. Oh, and my final project. So I'm big into crosswords, Ben, not going to lie.
Very cool.
Love me a good New York Times crossword puzzle. And so I thought of the idea of the editor of the New York Gazette would be like my game's version of the New York Times. He goes crazy and like becomes a serial killer, and he leaves puzzles at like the scene of the crime, and then you play as like a lowly intern at the New York Gazette, and you're sniffing out these, you're like, wait a second, this is connecting, and the gameplay would be to solve all these word puzzles.
That's so cool.
And if you solve them in time, you prevent the murder kind of thing.
That's a great idea.